that reality is always there and that one sees the same thing. But it's not so because it's gone immediately, and it's always good to be reminded of that. And then Roti brought out a good point about nothing and something, and then nothing, like Ajahn likes to stress. He thinks it's just words, and he would bring it up on Monday, but I find it useful for all of us to hear about this again now.
I think the point, just for the benefit of Tina and Zen in particular, is sometimes we say there is nothing and there's something and there's nothing. For example, seeing now, which sees what is visible, it arises by conditions and then falls away instantly. So whatever arises doesn't last for an instant. And when it's gone, it's completely gone, never to arise again in the cycle of birth and death. So that moment of seeing that we cling to and look forward to is gone instantly. This is why whatever arises is dukkha. In the deepest sense, it means it's impermanent and therefore unsatisfactory. So hearing now is nothing, and then it arises, and then there is clinging to it, thinking about the idea of hearing, and then it's gone instantly. So whatever arises is dukkha, unsatisfactory. Even metta now, it arises for an instant and then it's gone. It doesn't last for a moment. So in the deepest sense, like when the Buddha taught about the Four Noble Truths, even metta is dukkha, even sati, even panya, right understanding, whatever arises is dukkha, because it's gone and it's nothing at all. So not worth clinging to for an instant. But some friends, because this is we have an internet discussion group, some friends find it difficult, or they don't agree that one could say that what has gone is nothing.
Nothing, then something, then nothing can also be understood as not here, then gone. So it's talking about the conditioned nature of momentary realities. This moment of seeing, for example, it comes from nowhere. Although we don't see seeing as momentary, I know, but according to the teaching, consciousness is momentary. Before this moment of consciousness, it wasn't. Then there's this moment of consciousness, and then it falls away and it's gone forever. And another moment of consciousness follows immediately, of course. But that's my understanding of this saying, nothing then something.
Whatever arises is gone instantly.
Does it touch on dependent origination or in terms of conditional existence?
That's right. Whatever arises is by conditions, not by anyone's will. And the point of discussing about these realities, or we can call them dhammas, it's the same, is to show that there is no self, they are not in anyone's control. Whatever arises now is by conditions, not by anyone's wish or will at all, and then gone instantly. No one can keep the metta or the understanding or the awareness, because as soon as those conditions are no longer there, it's gone instantly.
So anicca, anatta, dukkha, huh?
That's right. This moment, the seeing now, the hearing now, whatever is conditioned is anicca, dukkha, and anatta. No matter its result, like seeing or hearing, the result of karma, or the wholesome moment like metta or understanding, or the unwholesome moment like the consciousness, we call it citta, that arises with anger or attachment. Whatever it is that's conditioned arises by its conditions and then gone. not in anyone's control.
But of course, distinction between our intellectual understanding of anicca, dukkha, anatta, and the direct realization of those characteristics. And that direct realization can only be the function of panya, cetasika. Panya, which takes a reality, a conditioned Dhamma, as its object, and understands that object to the degree that there is some understanding of the characteristics of anicca or dukkha or anatta, which of course would happen one by one. Again, and that understanding is conditioned, so there's no way of knowing what aspect of the characteristic of a Dhamma will be known by panya if and when it arises.
So this is why usually in the discussions we always come back to this moment, because it's only what is experienced now, what appears now, that can be known. So sometimes people would like to understand something like breath or nibbana, but what appears now? Seeing is now, hearing is now, attachment is now. These are the realities that are commonly appearing in daily life to be known.
I just want to add small detail, like now, may I ask Tina or Zen, now seeing, do you think it's just one moment of seeing or beyond countable moment of seeing? Like just by instant, what do you think? How many consciousness arise and fall already?
Uncountable. Every single moment. It actually goes faster than what I'm saying right now.
Yeah, that's right.
สวัสดีค่ะทุกคนค่ะ
Sawadika. We're just chatting a little bit to two friends who've joined for the first time who live in Sydney, Tina and Zen. They are a little familiar with the Pali terms, but it's the first time that they've joined us today. So we were just having a little introductory chat with them. And Nina brought up the topic of she may like to repeat it because one friend had a difficulty with it. Would you like to repeat the point or the question, Nina?
As Ajahn often says, there is nothing, and then there is something, and then there is nothing. And one of our friends thought these are just words, and he was going to bring it up on Monday, but I thought it's good for all of us to be reminded again and hear again about this. Please, Ajahn.
Okay, is there seeing before seeing arises now?
Nothing, no.
And then after seeing, is it still there as seeing?
It's gone forever.
And that is the meaning of nothing and no one at all. Only that which is there and then nothing, or it's nothing. Only when something arises by conditions, it's something and then nothing again.
Can I just add one point that was made by this other friend, Ajahn, so you can perhaps address it. His point was that there's no moment when there's nothing. There's always something. So to say there is nothing, then something, then the nothing again, he feels is not an accurate description. That was his point. Thanks.
Thought about moment before seeing that there are bhavanka. No object appears at all, but citta arises and performs its function as bhavanka, not experiencing anything through the six doorways at all. Like while one is asleep, is there anything appearing while one is sleeping? Nothing. But citta arises and falls away all the time, experiences the object which cannot be any object of the sense door and mind door. No seeing, no hearing, no smelling, no tasting, no touching, no thinking. And then after that, it's seeing or hearing or smelling, see, from nothing. But actually, citta is there, but cannot see and hear until it's time for seeing to arise. No one can stop its arising because there are conditions to condition seeing just right then at that very moment and then gone. What about seeing yesterday? What about seeing this morning? And what about seeing just a moment ago? Exactly the same, just arise and fall away in split seconds. And there's bhavangas in between, moment which no seeing, no hearing, no smelling, no thinking in between, and then rise again, seeing again or thinking again by conditions. Is that not true in this life, in this moment? So we are studying about that which is now all the time, but not is known as it is at all, until Buddha enlightened the truth of what is there and taught the truth of it to everyone to begin to understand the truth that actually is the I, because seeing sees and then falls away, hearing hears and then falls away. It's the beginning of understanding the truth of life. There is nothing, and then a conditions to condition a reality to arise and then falls away instantly. That's all, from birth to death. Just to know and understand what is there as it hasn't been known before, that's all. Like seeing now, not known before as it's not me, but it's a moment of seeing conditioned by so many conditions. And Buddha taught about conditions for whatever arises, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and thinking. From years ago, and for this life and next life, nobody can change the truth, because actually there are only the absolute realities. So we are talking about what is now appearing as it is, to begin to understand the truth of what is there as very temporarily. What we take for a moment is longer than the truth. It's shorter than that. No Sarah, no Jonathan, see, no me, only seeing, hearing, thinking about that which appears. Just to understand the truth. And understanding is not anyone either. It's just a characteristic which is conditioned. Without right condition for its arising, there cannot be understanding of that which is now appearing. So it's just time to talk about the truth and understand the truth little by little, until more understanding developed from hearing to be the direct understanding of that which is now appearing. Even just hardness, see, is not known as it is. As visible object now does not appear as it is. It appears as something all the time. But the truth is that it's not a tree, it's not a chair, only that which appears to a seeing, a moment of seeing. So how very short, very tiny it is, cannot be taken for anything like chair and table at all. Just learn about the truth little by little. And Panya develops to be more confident on the truth. Until understanding is at moment of touching or seeing or hearing, but with understanding. Otherwise, how can there be understanding at that very moment of touching or seeing or what's now appearing? That's all in life. A little more understanding from moment to moment. And this is only the words, but Panya can understand better about the very moment of that which appears by conditions, little by little, until it appears not just like now, but as it is. So what appears now is just like it is. or not at all.
Ajahn, is appear like something all the time. It doesn't appear like visible object. We say we see a flower and all that. It's always like that.
But what is true? See, we are talking about the absolute truth that can be known, can be understood, until it can be directly experienced. No doubt about the word Dhamma, Anicca, Dukkha, Anatta. But it has to condition by more confidence of the truth, so it can lead to what is there now. Without such firm confidence on the truth, it's impossible to understand what is now appearing. And this is very subtle, to let go the idea of I or something. But begin to understand that the truth is not just like when we think about it or see it, because we sit as a tree, as a chair, but actually no tree and no chair at all. So what is the truth? See, which is experienced and understood directly when it's there. And without intellectual understanding, nothing can condition such understanding of this very moment at all.
John, can we say that what we call seeing a tree or seeing a chair or seeing a flower is also a moment of truth, in that it's thinking about what has been
But
a
not
moment of thinking?
absolute truth, only samadhi, because of the arising and falling away so very quickly. No one can experience directly just a very short moment of that which appears as nothing, as no thing, as no tree and no chair at all, because they come together all at once like, what is there now? So many things, see. But that which is now appearing has to impinge on the I sense. And they cannot all at once impinge on it. Only just a dot, a moment, how very short, very tiny, very subtle is there, before it can be any shape and form.
But the moment of thinking at that moment is real.
Follows seeing, another process.
Thinking is real, but when you talk about flower and all that is just
The thinking is real, but
Yeah.
the flower or the tree is a concept. For Zen and Tina, Jan used the word panyati. Panyati is concept. So what is seen, the visible object, is an ultimate reality. We call it Dhamma or Paramatta Dhamma. But the flower or the tree is just a conventional truth. She called it samuti, such a conventional truth. So it's conventionally, it's correct that it's a flower or a tree, but actually it's just a concept, a panyati that is thought about.
Ajahn, but if there is no continuously arising and falling of the Dhamma and appear as nimitta, shape and form can't be. So this is there have to be an absolute truth that rise and fall. Then it's impossible to have idea of shape or whatever.
At that moment, no doubt about the characteristic which is not self or anything at all. For example, at moment of touching, is it a tree or a chair?
No.
Or it's only heart? See, and the flowers, is it heart as well?
No, it's
The flower?
it's just hard. There's no flower.
But there must be solidity, the Patipati Dhatu.
Yeah.
See, but it does not impinge. The Patipati Dhatu cannot impinge on it. But before there be the idea of flower or anything, so many, many moments, but each one has to impinge on the eye base. So how little even hardness is there, but it does not impinge. So when we touch, there is the idea of I touch something like chair, but when there is a little more understanding, I touch only hardness, see? But even touching at that moment, it is as very little as seeing that which appear like a tree, see? So how quick and how short it is for everything, exactly the same. 7 moments of citta that rupa has gone already, see? So what appears, even thinking about it, it's not at moment of directly experiencing it, which is another level of understanding from book or intellectual understanding. We never think about how minute it is, a moment of hardness appearing. But it has to be set like a flower, but actually it's only just that which is there, which can impinge on the eye base. All realities are the same, rupa lasts as long as citta 17 moments and then gone, never to return, never to rise again. So it cannot be taken for a chair or anything at all. No flower is seen, no chair is touched. Otherwise, it cannot eliminate the idea of self or things at all. If it cannot be directly experienced, it's there, taken for something, because it does not show up as it is. Only Panya can experience that.
So for anyone who's not so familiar with these terms, the only realities in daily life now are cittas, which are moments of consciousness, like seeing is a citta, hearing is a citta, thinking now is a citta, cetasikas, which are the mental factors that accompany cittas. So metta is a cetasika, anger is a cetasika, kindness is a cetasika, understanding, panya, is a cetasika. And rupas are those realities which don't experience anything. That which is seen now, the visible object, is a rupa. The hardness which is touched now is a rupa. And what Ajahn was referring to is the fact that cittas arise and fall away 17 times as fast as rupas. So rupas arise and fall away very, very fast, unbelievably fast. But the cittas and cetasikas even faster. So the rupa, which is experienced in an idle process, is experienced by 17 cittas, but only sees that visible object. And the reason we add a lot of detail or discuss a lot of detail is to show how anatta, how not self, these different realities are arising by different conditions and falling away instantly. So what we take for being life are actually just cittas and cetasikas which experience an object, and rupas which don't experience anything else, don't experience anything. And other than that, whatever else is just an idea, a fantasy about what has been experienced.
And this is the profoundness of realities. We cannot say that only seeing and visible object is subtle, profound. Even touching, see, even it's hard, but it has to be only 17 moments of citta's last to be a moment of that which cannot experience, no matter what it is seen or it's touched or it's smelled. Otherwise, one cannot understand what is meant by enlightenment and the Buddha's great wisdom and compassion for everyone. That when he taught, there can be understanding at different levels developed until it can be a moment of enlightened truth as he has enlightened. Exactly the same, because nobody can change the truth of reality.
this moment of seeing, what is being experienced is the people and things that are in the field of vision. That is just the conventional notion of seeing. According to the Buddha's teaching, the reality is somewhat different. That there are moments of eye consciousness that experiences the visible object, followed by many, many moments of thinking about the visible object that's been experienced and how that relates to other visible objects before and after it. And by thinking in this way, there is the idea of people and things formed in the mind. But the reality of seeing is actually just the moment of eye consciousness experiencing the visible object. And those moments are not apparent to us now. All that is apparent right now is the thinking and the concept of people and things that has been formed. So we discuss these other realities because they are among the realities the Buddha said have to be known and fully understood. But as Ajahn has explained, that understanding it's also a conditioned reality, and so we don't. There's no point in thinking one will go looking for seeing or visible object or hearing or sound, because that is an idea of being able to create the conditions for understanding. Instead, it is the hearing the Buddha's description of this present moment of reality that can be a condition for reflection, and if there's awareness and understanding, it may arise or at any time, not necessarily at the moment of hearing about these things, but maybe some later time upon further reflection. No control.
I just want to add John points, like we say that we see a people and shape and all that. It's actually only the visible object. Through hearing, always also same. We can't hear the word and all that. We can hear the sound, but when we talk about the word and all, that is thinking.
Hearing hears just sound. It doesn't hear word or voice or person speaking, let alone does it hear meaning. But to us, the meaning of the spoken word is known instantly, which indicates that brief moments of actual hearing of sound are followed immediately by many, many moments of thinking, so that there is the immediate understanding of words spoken and their meaning. But that's all thinking, and the moments of hearing and sound are not apparent.
And consider and read about or listen to the details about the realities now as taught by the Buddha, it would be impossible on our own to ever know that it is just seeing now which sees, not I or anyone who sees. It is just that which is visible that is seen, not a chair or a rose. It is just hearing which hears, no one in it who hears. So it's only because of the Buddha's teachings that it's possible to know the truth of life now. But because the idea of self is so very, very deeply rooted, the idea of someone and something, a computer, a chair, a person here, so deeply rooted, we have to hear and consider a lot about the realities in life now in order for that confidence to really develop that this is the truth and nothing else. And there really is no one who can do anything or who can control life.
And Jonathan brought up an interesting point that actually we know the truth only by thinking. And then I replied on DSG that I think no control maybe can be experienced without thinking. Is that right? No control, that there is no control what will arise.
Nina, Dhamma are uncontrollable. When you think that control doesn't understand the anatta-ness of Dhamma, it's forget that, then it's I or like that. Dhamma are uncontrollable.
I agree, yeah.
If there's no understanding of realities, if there's no understanding of seeing now which sees, arising by its conditions, hearing now which hears, there cannot be any understanding of what is meant by no control or uncontrollability. It's just thinking about ideas. So without the understanding of the reality which appears now, nothing can be understood about the anatta-ness of realities, or the aspect that they are not in anyone's control. It's just thinking about a story without the understanding of reality at this moment.
So I have to consider this, because even no control that seeing arises now, that's even the story. Is that right?
I think it's like impermanence. We all know what impermanence means.
Yeah.
And we know that everything's impermanent, and this moment's impermanent, and so on and so forth. But this is not the impermanence of which the Buddha spoke, because he spoke about the impermanence that was a characteristic of conditioned realities, conditioned dhammas. And it's only when conditioned dhammas are the object of understanding that true impermanence, as spoken of by the Buddha, becomes apparent. So it's the same with no control, which is an aspect of not self. That if we talk about no control in the sense of not knowing what's going to happen next moment, it's true, it's correct, it's useful, but it's not understanding. It's the story of uncontrollability. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. That's clear now. Yeah, but I wonder whether the first stage of understanding, which is pariyatti, intellectual understanding, is it possible that there is already a beginning of direct experience? Otherwise, how can it ever become direct experience if it is only thinking all the time?
Like everything in life being impermanent, or everything in life being uncontrollable, it has to be the beginning of right understanding about reality now, what appears now, that which is visible at this moment, which appears. Because otherwise it's just like a conventional idea that everyone knows that dhammas are impermanent, or one doesn't always get what one wants because it's not in one's control. It's not the beginning of the Buddha's the understanding of the Buddha's teaching about the realities now, which are anatta. This is the beginning of pariyatti understanding. It has to be with panya, about realities. Sorry, Sundara, I think you were about to speak.
I was just commenting on what Nina was saying there. There's a commentarial gloss on the word anapto, the adjective anapto. It's powerless. And I think it's really important to consider really what that means. And Kun Sujin in many ways speaks to this all the time.
There are many things around now. If there is no understanding of anyone, can there be the understanding of what is there? Because it's just like a whole together. Tree, chair, and table, and people. But when we talk about just a reality, for example, seeing, there is seeing around too, not just only one sees. It's there with many realities. But if there is no understanding of what is seeing, can we find that, oh, it's this or it's that, see? Before we can know anything, we just have no idea about that thing at all until it's told about its truth. And then we begin to understand the difference between this and this. For example, suppose we are talking about Kun Vichai, see? Who knows Kun Vichai here? No one knows. But if I talk a little more about Kun Vichai, a gentleman, see, his name is Vichai, and I begin to talk about it. You have some idea about it, like you have some idea about seeing, or some idea about hardness, or some idea about thinking, but it's there all the time unknown. But in order to know what is there, and where is it, we have to understand the characteristic of that just one at a time, to know that only that person, where is he among many peoples around, see? But the more we know the characteristic, different parts about him, the eyes, the ears, so on, we begin to look for him. But can you find him directly, very quickly, or just look around, depending on how long will it take to know just that is that we have heard about Kun Vishai. So we know. If we have no idea about Kun Vishai, or just be told, find Kun Vishai for me, how can you find him? He is among many people, great numbers of people, like now. Many things not is known as this is this and that is that at all. That's why we begin to talk about, but we haven't directly see exactly the moment that it's this person. But we have the idea, who's he and what is he? And then there is some idea to look around until there is more understanding of that person, which is different from other, before you can find out who's he and where's he. It's like seeing now, hearing, thinking all around, with touching, see? No idea what is what. But when there is the moment of understanding, each one as it is, you can know when you see him, and you can touch when you get near him. It's like now, we're talking about what is there in the body and mind. They are here and now, but not known, until one is known and the other is known one by one, until you can see what is what. That seeing is not hearing, not thinking, not heard at all, but it is there which sees, and it's there now, but not understanding enough to know that he's Kun Vichai. So how can you see that this person so close to you is him? Exactly the same like what are now. So close, but without the words of truth, no understanding of that as not self, not the other at all, not me. And that person, in truth, no person, arises by conditions and fall away at once, see? So how can there be understanding enough to know? It takes time to understand that which arises and falls away so very quickly. And what appears is like nimitta, not that exactly one which has gone at all. But it doesn't matter as long as it shows up as no one there at all. Seeing is that which experiences that which is seen. So clear understanding of that which experience and that which cannot experience there. It appears well, one by one. See, so very fast. But not as it is, because it's not the higher understanding, higher stage of vipassana. So whatever is now can be experienced with higher panya to see the truth of it, because one is so familiar of not anatta and it experiences, and that which is not experiences, and that is that, and this is this, until more understanding, more confidence on anatta-ness. So that moment can be conditioned with no expectation, just like pop up. In Pali term, I think that Kun Suntra knows what is there in Pali. Just pop up, because conditions is there for it to just arise and experience with that level of understanding. So the words of truth bring about the understanding of the truth as no one and nothing. Even right now, no I, for sure, there are different realities. seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, all the time. Not long enough at all. Very fast. Just understand, no expectation, letting go the idea of self from understanding better and better about each reality as it is, like Chanda we talked before. See, we learned about the Patipati Dhamma, the factors for enlightenment, what are there? There's for Slipatana and for that and for this, but it's now from the very beginning. It's not lopa, it's not attachment, but it is interest in that. No matter it is what, one is interesting, one is interested. One is interested in this and the other interested in that. That's why even those who study Buddhism, someone like to talk about Pajya and the other would like to talk about the processes of Citta, so on, depending. But what about each word? It's there now. We have Chanda to listen to the truth, to talk about the truth, to share, to discuss about the truth, to understand more as no one at all. See? But when it's lopa, it's not Chanda. It clings, it attaches with desire. See? So each one is there, not known at all as not self, because they are different ones. Only the words of truth begin to be known, studied carefully, and then Panya develops, arise by Sankhara Khanda to condition different moment of understanding, little by little, not at will, but by understanding of the anatta-ness of the truth, even right now. Quite a relief, no one, see, only different realities, so true. There can be only this personality, just before death. And then after that, who knows? Samsara keeps on by condition, rolling on and on and on as this life, and then gone completely. What about understanding? See, depending on how much Chanda and the Itipata, Virya, and so on. It's now. No matter talking about the intellectual understanding or the Patipati or the Pativeda, so Panya understand correctly, exactly what level it is, as long as it still appears as table and things. What about? There's nothing in that which is seen, only different colors, and the nimitta by citta, which thinks, not in word, even in shape and form. It's not seeing, it's not hearing, it's not smelling, not tasting, not touching, so it's thinking. No matter that even not in words, it thinks already about that which appears. No one.
Let me just explain a few of the terms for some of the newcomers, just so that it's easier to follow afterwards. So when Ajahn mentioned Patipati and Pativeda, we often talk about stages of understanding. So earlier there was mention of Pariyatti. Nina mentioned Pariyatti. Pariyatti is the right understanding, but at a thinking or intellectual level. So now when we talk about seeing, how it's seeing which sees, it's not the direct understanding of the reality of seeing, but it's the right intellectual understanding that it is just seeing which sees. And without this Pariyatti level of understanding, reflecting wisely about the nature of different realities, it cannot condition the higher understanding, which is the direct understanding of realities, the Patipati understanding. Sometimes people translate this word as practice, and they say there must be practice first before there can be intellectual understanding. But that's the wrong way round. There has to be the Pariyatti understanding about dhammas as anatta, arising by conditions, before there can be the direct understanding of realities, Satipatthana understanding. And this understanding is not practice, because as we know, there's no one who can practice or do anything. It's the momentary direct understanding of the realities appearing now that we've heard and considered, not through any selection or special focus or desire to be aware, but naturally through the development of understanding. And only this direct understanding, the Patipati or Satipatthana understanding, can lead to the realization of dhammas, the vipassana jnanas and enlightenment. So this is what is referred to as the Pariyatti, Patipati, Patibheda levels of understanding in brief. And Ajahn was mentioning pop up, usually after seeing, like now, attachment pops up instantly. So as soon as there is seeing of a pleasant object, there's attachment immediately and then gone. So just as usually attachment and ignorance and aversion pop up all the time, as soon as there's seeing or hearing, through wise reflecting about the dhammas, it's a condition that understanding can begin to pop up from time to time, not by anyone trying to have it, but just by conditions. There can be moments of wise reflection instead of the usual unwise reflection in the day. And another term that Ajahn was talking quite a lot about is chanda. In English, chanda is often translated as desire, but this is quite misleading, because actually desire is an aspect of lobha or attachment. But chanda is the reality that takes an interest in the object, and it can arise with chitas arising with lobha mula chitas. It can also arise with dosa mula chitas when there is aversion, there is interest in the object with aversion. And it also arises with all kusala chitas. So at moments of wise considering, like now, about realities, which takes a lot of patience and wise reflection, there has to be the wholesome chanda, the wholesome interest, in order to listen and consider and reflect, and for understanding to develop. And she mentioned the iddhipadas. So these are the pathways. Sometimes it's called pathways of power, but that's also not a very helpful translation. But chanda is one of the iddhipadas, along with virya, which is effort, right effort, chitta, the consciousness, and vimamsa, which is another word for understanding or panya. But the point was that without chanda, without interest developing with understanding, then that understanding can never develop to be the degree of direct understanding. So interest and the patience with understanding are very important. And one other word she was mentioning is samsara. People use this a lot in English. It's almost like become an English word. They talk about cycle of birth and death and being lost in samsara and so on. But actually samsara is this moment. Each moment is a moment in life, is a moment in the cycle of birth and death. So every moment now is samsara, a moment of few of terms and points she was referring to, and each one is so very deep. And any comments or questions so far, Zen or Tina? Or is it, or anyone?
I find it so helpful that Ajahn said that little by little we talk about realities such as seeing or hearing, and in different aspects it becomes a little clearer and a little clearer. And in this way she showed us how slowly, how gradually the whole process of development is. I found that very helpful, that it is so slowly.
Yeah, I'd just like to say a couple of words there, just briefly. Just on that word patipati, yes, sometimes it is translated as practice, and I have spoken to this before. I don't think it's really necessarily important what translation we use. I think that's relatively unimportant. The importance always will be the understanding of the correct pariyatti. The Buddha used the phrase adhamhi nato saranam awalcha nat vyanjanam. So he's saying there, it's the meaning, the atta, that's the protection, that's the sarana, nat vyanjanam, not the word. I think this is really important to grasp. Whether you use the word practice or whatever, it's relatively unimportant. I don't think it's a problem, in my view, to use the word practice. If you must understand, then of course there will be a problem.
Like when some people say practice, like they go do meditation and all this, so which is wrong, which is not only in Thailand or but everywhere in the world.
This is usually the common understanding when practice is used. So this is what the reason we would avoid it, because usually behind that word practice, there's the idea of someone who does something or follows something.
I don't think, though, Sarah, that by avoiding the word practice, you'll have right understanding. I don't think that adds up. It does not make any sense.
But it can mislead many people, the word practice, if who didn't understand, they think, oh, do meditation, do this, do that, go 6, 7 day or 8 day, 1 month or like that.
Is the concern with the use of practice because it's a verb and so it implies that there is someone doing it? So you've got the doer and the doing? Is that what the concern is?
No, I don't think that's the concern. The problem will always be, as I read it, is the understanding. I mean, no matter what word you use, if there's not the correct understanding, there will be problems. If there's not the correct pariyatti, there will be problems. So if you have correct understanding, you have correct pariyatti, then there will not be a problem. Whatever you can use, whatever words you use. The Buddha uses the word patipati. So, and that is sometimes not, I believe, unfairly translated as a practice or a going or a doing. But many people, when they hear of this, because the self is so strongly entrenched and there is so much ignorance, they think there is something that they can do, which is taking hold of the teachers taking hold of the teaching wrongly. So I mentioned this before, a commentarial gloss on the word attano is powerless. And I think it's important to contemplate and consider the implications of that. It's not easy, but Dhamma is difficult. So I don't think use of certain words or avoiding them is helpful. I think it always must come to the understanding. The Buddha used that word nat vyanjanam. It's not the word, or sometimes it means a consonant, sometimes means a word, sometimes means a vowel, but it's not really important. To me, it will always be the correct pariyatti. If there is not the correct pariyatti, there will be a problem.
Even the intellectual understanding, the pariyatti, some people think that, oh, it's just remembering the term sati, dhamma is anatta and all that, but that's not, it has to be the understanding. what we call as intellectual, not that remember like this, like that. Even for many people think that pariyatti is just remember like a subject and all that.
Tina, when you hear about Patipati, which, as we said, is often translated as practice, but which I was suggesting is not. The reason I wouldn't use practice is because it's referring to the direct understanding of reality now, not anything that is followed or anything that's done. This is why we wouldn't use the term. What about for you, when you hear about Patipati, how do you understand it?
My limited understanding would be that it's about experience. So as opposed to an intellectual understanding about it.
And what do you mean by an experience? What is an experience?
That moment, whatever arises.
Is an experience?
What was that?
One could say that now there's experiencing all the time, because experiencing is the function of consciousness, isn't it? So seeing is an experience, hearing is an experience, thinking is an experience. So what is special about Patipati that makes it different from just this moment of experiencing? To our understanding, it would be that it's experiencing with understanding, so that the mental factor of panya is present.
And in order for that direct experience with understanding to occur, there has to be the understanding of the object, the reality which is experienced. So, for example, if one thinks that there can be direct experience of the body or of breath or of an emotion, for example, this is not direct experience of a reality, because it's thinking about a concept, an idea about reality. So this is why we're stressing that there has to be the pariyatti understanding first. For example, if one thinks now that one touches an arm or the body, it's not the right intellectual understanding about realities that can lead to the direct experience of realities. Nina, I think you were about to say something before. And
about Patipati.
yes.
No, I really agree. It's not at all practice, because practice, I can do something, or I can make something arise, or have more understanding, or speed up understanding. That is not it. So the practice is a misleading translation.
I think Ajahn would tell us in Thailand, they use the word Patipat, which is pretty much exactly the same as the Pali word. But there is misunderstanding. So I just stress again that it's not the word, whether you use practice or whatever. It's not going to make any difference until there is correct pariyatti. And just Ajahn earlier mentioned the word to pop up. I believe the word is upapatti, which means to come up, to arise. But the past participle is upatti. But yeah, I don't think these words are necessarily, they're not so important at all. I think Ajahn would always say there has to be the correct understanding of Dhamma as it appears presently. If there's not that, and that's not easy. This is why we come together on Zoom to listen and to consider carefully about the Dhamma. And if that doesn't happen, if there's not that careful consideration, then there will not be any development of the path. I'll leave it at that.
Reason why, as Sarah was saying, the thinking that one touches the arm is not understanding of realities, is because what is experienced through the body sense is only hardness or softness or temperature. Just like what is experienced by the ear consciousness is just sound. It's not word, it's not voice, it's not meaning. The body consciousness experiences just degree of hardness or softness, tactileness, or temperature, or motion, pressure. So the idea that what is being touched is an arm is conceptual thinking. Nothing necessarily wrong with thinking in those terms, because we have to think in concepts. There has to be thinking in concepts in order to live. But the problem is taking one thing for being another, not understanding some certain realities that are arising now.
So when it seems that there is the direct experience, which one is used to thinking of as Patipati, one thinks that there's direct awareness of what is true or real. One has to consider what is real, because if there isn't the understanding of what is real now, intellectually in the first place, then there cannot be the direct understanding of that reality.
Yeah, like Sundara was also stressing it. Ajahn often says it's not the word or the story, but the understanding. We cling so much to words.
I think what's been said has been very profound so far, and I am quite grateful for what's been said, and my mind is very calm, and I think that's a good sign. The way I understand so far what's been said is that we suffer because we take what's not real to be real through unwise attention, and wise attention just looks at ultimate realities. Is that correct?
I'll let Ajahn will want to say something, I'm sure, but I would say that wise attention arises by conditions when there is understanding of a reality. So most of the time it's unwise attention. Attention is one of those mental factors that's arising all the time with every moment of consciousness. It's only wise attention when either there's wholesome consciousness or particularly when there's a level of understanding. So it's not a case of being able to pay wise attention or to attend wisely. It's a case of that mental factor being conditioned to arise, which it does with every moment of understanding.
So my question is, what is the proximate cause for wise attention?
The proximate cause for understanding, for wise attention, is the same as the proximate cause for understanding, because they both arise together. And we can talk about the factors for the arising of understanding. These were mentioned by the Buddha in the suttas. First, there has to be the hearing of his explanation of the world. And there has to be the hearing of that teaching in a way that is helpful for us, that is suitable for our present level of understanding or wrong understanding, as the case may be. And then there has, but just hearing it once is not enough. It has to be heard over and over again. And there has to be the interest in that to reflect upon it, not by directed effort, but as it were unconsciously, or so that there's reflecting even without perhaps realizing it's being reflected on, but only after considering what has been heard against what is happening in our life as we are able to perceive it. Can there be conditions for awareness and understanding to arise? And the reason that they may arise is that presumably and hopefully awareness and understanding have been developed previously in previous lifetimes. So that accumulated tendency is there, being carried forward moment to moment along with all the other accumulated tendencies, but it needs the hearing of the teaching in this lifetime to condition its arising.
In other words, it's now hearing and considering about the different realities in life now is the condition for wise attention and right understanding of realities.
I'd just like to add there that the first factor, which is essential for development of the path, is what's called Sapuriso Sangsewo, which means to meet the wise person, the person who understands the Dhamma. And that is so rare in the world today. And that's going to depend on our accumulations and tendencies, whether or not, when we listen carefully, we're able to recognize what we're hearing as truth. And Ajahn always speaks to this. So there are 4 factors. Well, I don't think it's necessary to go through them all, but the most important ones is that we meet Sapurisa, the wise person. If we don't meet the wise person, because there's a lot of people out there who say they are the Sapurisa, but I don't believe they are. So it's a tricky path in many respects. But I would always say to you, my friend, to listen carefully. And the Buddha, when he was speaking to the that famous Kalama Sutta, he'd always say, consider carefully. You know, there's that very famous verse that I spoke with Jonathan when he says, Alam hi wo. The first factor for the development of the path is the Sapurisa Sangsewo. Tanajan, how would you say is the best way to begin to recognize and then obviously to value that person? How do we recognize that person, the Sapurisa, the wise person?
Not the matter of how, but to understand the truth. For example, I would like to ask one question to Sen. Do you know calm? What is it?
It's just a feeling.
Any kind of feeling?
It's a peaceful feeling.
Why you know that it's peaceful?
There is no movement.
You mean that sitting still is calm or what? No movement.
The mind doesn't move.
Do you know the mind?
Only knowing.
Because we're talking about wise considering, a wise reflection, how come, see? And this is a question to understand it. For example, just one question like calm or calmness. Who knows? One takes something as calmness, and what is the truth? You take it, but is it real calm? So what is calm or what is calmness? We can talk about any word, just one word, and see how much wise reflection is about that word. For example, calm and pop-up. See, why do we use different words for different aspects of just a reality? See, not exactly the same, like lopa as aswa or lopa as nivarana. I thought that you have learned Pali too, or Abhidhamma, so you are quite acquainted with these words.
Little bit.
So to understand whether it is wise considering or wise reflection or not, it's a moment of understanding. It can be at the very beginning, and then it go deeper and deeper and deeper and reach the real reality, which is there, unknown now, because we're talking about that which is there, but not understanding enough. For example, the word calm. Many people take something when they like to be calm, sitting still, see, know nothing, experience nothing, and then it's calm. Is that calm? From the words of the truth of the Buddha, who enlightened the truth of all realities, each word, each different aspect. See, is that wise considering or wise reflection? When it's not enough understanding or no understanding at all. Such a barami is very important for the development of right understanding, because the truth cannot be changed at all. No matter who takes it, this or that aspect as one's own thought. But what's the truth about that? That's why we learn carefully, wisely, to any reality which is there. Many, many aspects. When we use the word pop up, what does it mean? The sudden arising unexpectedly. See, everything is anatta, right? No one, nothing, uncontrollable. But the characteristic of anattanness does not appear. It doesn't pop up. The right understanding of the truth directly. See? Because it's quite so natural, each moment, the ripple, not the wave, see, the strong wave. So there are many degrees of ignorance and many degrees of understanding, see, that can be studied. So there can be the letting go of ignorance and attachment. Otherwise, it's one's own idea all the time. Sometimes it's right, but it's not exactly as absolute reality, right? That's why each word should be studied. So now, just one word, calm or calmness. What is it? Not just not move at all. See? Can citta move? Wise reflection. We use the word like we used to think about from this to that. It's a kind of moving, see, along with attachment or move with aversion. But the citta cannot move. But it has different aspects from this to that. It seems like it moved from here to there, but actually, citta cannot move. It just can experience only when it arises and then fall away instantly. No one can use the citta, no one can set the citta, no one can try to control citta. It's impossible because it's gone. No one can do anything because actually there's no one. This will lead to more understanding of anatta little by little, because the point in life is to understand the Ariya Satya, the Four Noble Truths. No one there at all, even now or long time ago or in the future, no one at all. It's only the arising, as long as there are conditions for its arising, to arise and then fall away all the time, from moment to moment. And just one moment, as we take it for a moment, it's longer than itself, which is moment of arising and falling away. So study each word carefully. It's true, but just a little truth, and then more than that, keener than that, to understand the difference between the level and aspects of a reality. So, are you calm now? Understand calmness now, right?
Inside is still anger. I'm just a putuchon with a lot of kilesa.
Beyond control.
And the main point, Haji or Zen, whether it's anger or calmness, it's just a Dhamma which arises and falls away instantly. It's not my calm, which usually we cling to so much. Everyone would like more calm and feels happy when it seems calm, or so disturbed when it's anger. But either way, they're just passing Dhammas, not my calmness to be so attached to, or my dosa to be so bothered about. It's whatever arises is gone instantly.
It's not my dosa, it's not dosa on me.
It's just a Dhamma that arises when there are conditions, and then it's gone instantly. And it helps so much to appreciate that what is it one's so angry with? Sound or visible object only. But it's gone anyway. So understanding helps a lot. And when we find it so important to be calm or stay calm, or we feel happy that we were not so disturbed, like Haji, for example, what about the attachment at those moments? The clinging is so strong, and it's still my calm, my clinging. So whatever it is, it's just Dhamma, and then it's gone. And it's always unexpected. No one knew. You didn't know you would suddenly be disturbed at that moment, and Zen didn't know he would suddenly feel peaceful at this moment. but whichever way it's gone. And I think Ajahn's point about calmness is usually like when we sit in a quiet place or go for a walk in the countryside or on the beach, it feels so peaceful, so calm, so sabai and Thai, and we think this is calmness, but usually what is taken for calmness is attachment or subtle attachment, which also arises with pleasant feeling. So when we feel comfortable and relaxed, unless it's the moment of kusala, such as at the moment of wise considering or understanding, or the moment of true metta, for example, then the citta is not calm, even though it seems so pleasant and tranquil. So it's so subtle, and it only lasts for an instant, no matter dosa or calm, gone instantly.
And then what Ajahn is explaining is that only kusala citta is truly calm. So we may think we're calm. We may be calm relative to our normal state of mind, but it's only real calm if it's kusala.
Kusala is recklessness.
Understood.
Right.
And also, Zen, you know, there are a lot of people in the world, say, for example, an assassin, they have to be very cool and calm on the outside anyway. They have to be very, I think cool and calm is what we might say. But you would know that when you have, you know, a malicious intent to harm another person or to steal their property, that is not skillfulness as we understand the Dhamma. It is unskillful. So the teachings are very subtle. And when we, for example, study the Abhidhamma, we have the phrase somanassa sahagatam, which is the part of what's called the first lobha chitta. So just because there is somanassa, or possessed of pleasant feeling, or a nice happy feeling, or contented feeling it may seem, that doesn't mean to say that it is skillful. So it's not easy. And I think I really like the avenue that Ajahn was going down about asking, how do we begin to recognize this? So Ajahn, I'd like to ask again, in reference to the question that Zen asked, how do we recognize the wise person so that we can begin to hear the Dhamma and consider carefully?
Haji, did anger pop up?
Yeah, it has to be unexpected.
But not as the meaning of pop up. Because it's very usual. Everyone knows it can happen anytime unexpectedly. But it's not just like when panya is there. Not at level of intellectual understanding. Like just a moment ago, anger pop up. Everyone knows. But when it means that which just unexpectedly as anatta, it's much more than usual to understand that it's conditioned not by anyone at all, expectation at all. See? So the understanding of the word go deeper and deeper. Because now even things arise by condition, not being known at all, as it is conditioned. To learn that all conditioned reality must have its proper condition for its arising. Only that. But it's not the moment of when it just by conditions, and it's only no one at all. That is like just pop up by conditions, see? Another level of understanding. Because before anger arises, it does not appear, but when it just happens suddenly, one can use the word pop up, but not the understanding of what is meant by pop up, because it's only general in life, general realities, anger and so on. See,
everyone can speak, but that's not the understanding.
Mm-hmm. So when it's not you, it's what?
It's Dhamma.
What Dhamma?
Like anger.
Yeah. What is that?
And what do you mean, Ajahn?
Kusala or akusala?
Akusala.
It's been accumulated.
Yeah.
Danger, very dangerous.
Well, actually, in samsara, is so long ago. Kilesa, if it can, is even beyond universe to fill in. So it's even more much more dangerous than what I've said just now.
And only Panya can understand
Yeah.
and letting go. But as long as it's still me, it's I who cling to oneself, try to not have it. See, so many traps.
It's already arise. So what doing?
Only Panya which sees the danger of all akusala dhamma, especially the cause, the avijja.
Yeah, Ajahn, like just now, like my angry just arise. People say that, oh, it's bad and all that, but actually when we learn Dhamma, it's not the actual panya that see the akusala as akusala itself, because then everybody in the world can say, oh, anger bad, killing bad and all that, but that's not the wisdom, that understanding the.
As long as it's me or mine, it cannot eliminate the idea of self.
Because like when I say that killing is bad or doing bad thing and all that talking with akusala, with moha, and only panya can be known. It's not with talking like everybody can say, no matter they say that, oh, doing dan is good and all that, but it's not a panya that sees dan as it is, as a dhamma which is good. It's just talking with ignorance, it's talking with akusala, so it's just blind. It's just
Depends on how much panya or how less. See, very little or very strong. So seeing the danger of our akusala first.
The Dhamma or family member or someone who has a different interpretation of Dharma that causes the irritation or disturbance, or what is the cause when one is disturbed or angry?
But Sarah, you understand me, right? When
But what is the cause? Is it the spammer that is the cause, or
no, it's our
the other
feeling.
person? It's the one's own accumulated annoyance conditioned by the clinging to oneself.
And
so we think the problem is the spammers in life, the hackers in life. We think the problem is the other family members, or we think the problem are people who have the wrong understanding. But the real problem is just the accumulated dosa conditioned by the strong attachment only. So the understanding helps a lot. It doesn't mean there will be no anger or no irritation, but to understand the real cause helps a lot.
Actually, no one can harm us. The only true enemy is our kilesa. There's no outside kilesa, actually.
It's so,
and
it's always that you appreciate it so much.
A brief answer to your question, because it's a very important one. I think it's the same question that the Kalamas asked the Buddha. And I think from memory, the answer he gave was, when what that person says, it can be tested and shown to lead to detachment and to understanding, then that is the wise person. So it's a matter of considering what one has heard and seeing whether it's consistent with the teachings as we have them from the Buddha's own mouth. And only over time, actually, can it be known. So I think it's really a matter of not trying to identify the wise person, but just considering what one has heard and seeing if it accords with the Buddha's teaching. That's the important thing, because we can hear all the teaching can be heard from any number of people. It doesn't have to be just a given individual who is much wiser than we are, although one is fortunate to meet such a person.
And association with the wise Sapurisa is only at the moments of understanding. Otherwise, there's no association with the wise at
Because
all.
wise is only the wisdom.
It's only the understanding.
Yeah.
The understanding, actually it's the Buddha's understanding, and there can be association with that understanding at different times, unexpectedly, in different situations.
Because wise is only the panya that understand Dhamma. If there's no understanding, that's not wise.
And this is the way to help less clinging to this or that person, to understand it's the association with the Buddha's teaching, with the wise, with the wisdom he taught.
Discussions such as this, where everyone is interested in understanding the Buddha's teaching as it was taught, in understanding the true meaning of the Buddha's teaching. One doesn't know from whom one is going to hear something that will be helpful.
Jonathan, I'd like to go back to something you said before.
Yes, Azita?
The comment you made, the moments of seeing and hearing aren't apparent. There is a lot of thinking about what was seen, heard. Can you elaborate out on that? Because I know we've talked about it before, in that the mind door is covered up by the sense doors. Is that correct, or is it the other way around?
Well, at the present moment, there is the idea of seeing people and things. There's not any awareness or understanding of the moment of seeing consciousness as experiencing just the visible object, just that which is visible, before there's thinking about the shape and form. It's all shape and form that's appearing, and not the actual visible object. We know there must be seeing because the shape and form is being thought about. That's all. Likewise, when there's hearing, the words are heard and recognized instantly. There's no lag between, moment of experiencing sound and then understanding that it's a word being spoken. So there's only the hearing of the words and the appreciation of the meaning happening, so we know, again, there must be the hearing of sound, but what is actually appearing is the thinking of the meaning, the recognizing of the words being formed.
But it seems that the sound lasts a long time, the visible object is seen lasts a long time, and this is what is meant by covering up. There's no understanding that seeing just sees the visible object for a moment and then gone, and then it's followed by so much thinking.
Yes, I thought that's probably
the
right.
eye door covers up the mind door because it seems that what is seen is there all the time.
And I think it indicates just how, because you mentioned again, John, about how, as soon as there's a sound, you instantly have a name for it. It's like as soon as there's a sound happen, it's a bird or it's somebody talking or something, and more so with visible object. So I think that the precision that has to develop, the understanding that has to really, really understand the moment of seeing is so precise. And
John was explaining about identifying kun vichai out of the crowd and having just bits of description. It takes a long time and this is why we talk about the characteristic of the different realities, so that there can be some reflection on the true nature of seeing, moment of seeing, or moments of eye consciousness and moments of what is visible object, as opposed to the shape and form that is being thought about, because it's only gradually over a long period of time that the reality begins to appear from amongst the crowd of other things being thought about. So
Ajahn's comment about getting to know Kun Wichai was quite good, I thought.
Yes, very, very true. And it helps to appreciate that the description given by the Buddha has to be heard over and over again and reflected upon before realities become apparent, because realities only become apparent to understanding. They cannot be known by looking for them, by trying to find them, because one is only looking for one's idea of what the reality is, and that is bound to be different from how it actually is.
Yes, thank you.
And then I'm sure you're familiar with the word sanya, or which is memory or perception in English, and how there is sanya arising with every chitta in life. So, for example, if you hear the name Kun Wichai, it doesn't mean anything to you. There's no memory of those particular sounds, so no memory to condition thinking about this person. But those who are in Thailand who know this person, when they hear those sounds, because of memory arising at each moment, it conditions thinking about the one that we know as Kun Wichai. And if it's someone who knows him very well, then because of the memory of the sound, there is thinking not just about the person, but about their family and all sorts of other stories. So the memory which arises with every chitta in life, at moments of seeing, moments of hearing, moments of thinking, conditions the thinking to think about this one or that one. The reason that we can follow the words now is because of there has been the memory of those particular sounds, which conditions the thinking about the meaning of these words or these terms.
I'd just like to add, going back to Azita, that the reason for or that the fact that there is the seeing and visible object to be understood does not mean that the thinking about shape and form disappears in any sense. It continues. That is the habitual way of the process of experiencing and sensed or objects being followed by thinking about sensed or object. And the idea is not to not think about shape and form, but that there is, as well as thinking about shape and form, there is understanding of the reality, other realities that at this stage are not appearing to be known.
Yes, I agree. If there's trying not to think, that's such a wrong path, I would think. I have some friends who, say there's no thinking, but well, we know there's always thinking unless it's in the jhana factor, in states of jhana, but there's always thinking, or the Jetasika Vitaka.
Yes, I think some people have the idea that because there's wrong view associated with much of thinking, that therefore the problem is the thinking about shape and form, but it's actually only the wrong view that is to be eradicated, not the thinking of shape and form.
And it's the wrong view that's got to be known.
Yes,
it's got to be known that this wrong view before there's any idea of eradicating.
Yes, it can only be eradicated by being seen as it truly is.
There is another comment that I'd written down from a long time ago, and it's regarding giving, dana. Sometimes when a person regrets giving something away, he should consider what he really wants. Does he want to keep that object, or does he want to realize the Four Noble Truths? And I thought that was rather good, but maybe Ajahn could elaborate on some of that. I'm not quite sure of the connection between the two.
What and what? The two.
Between somebody might regret giving something away, and then but
What
that
is
person,
that moment is the dana. What is moment of regret? Is it dana?
the moment of regret is not dana.
So dana is a moment of giving away. It's like nekama or jaka. Because if one just give for something in return, it's not giving or buying or exchanging.
It's not true giving.
Mm-hmm. So when one say giving is the manner of jaka, nekama, as parami, that is giving. But when it's the action of giving something, but for what? For anything in return, or just not for anything in return at all?
Well, the other comment in that sentence is, does he want to give that object, or does he want to realize the Four Noble Truths?
But why there can be this question in mind? Just want to understand the action or the citta which gives. There is giving in a day or in a year or month, but no understanding it at all, whether that moment is wholesome or unwholesome with what. Because citta arises and falls away so very fast, and one tries to know it. But you see that what we are talking about cannot be known at all when it's not moment of realizing the truth of a reality. No matter we talk about calm, we just expect it is that moment, but that moment's gone with many, many other moments. And we're talking about just one. See, that's why we talk about the characteristic of each reality as not self, but the reality is not directly experienced as a reality until it is with clear understanding. That we use the word vipassana. For example, like seeing right now and mind-up process. See, is there bhavanka in between?
Yes, there is.
See, and manodvara, what in between? Mind-up process in between.
In between sense doors, yes.
Can it appear as visible object? The bhavanka and the manodvara citta, can it appear as visible object?
No.
See, but it's there. It shows how rapidity, the succession of the arising and falling away of reality is there. See, there is many processes of thinking, but they do not appear as different processes from seeing process. See, so what appears is not as it is, because there must be mind-up process in between. That's why reality does not appear well, because it does not appear as it is in between many processes of mind-up. So the mind-up processes, even there are so many moments, it's covered up by that which can be seen, right? Because those moments cannot be seen. Nothing can be seen except just one doorway, seeing process or seeing moment only see. The citta before seeing cannot see, but it experiences the object. What does it mean? It experiences without seeing, see. So at that moment, it experiences the object but not see the object. So how fast the moment is, like magician, see, like this all the time until panya is there. At that moment, no processes cover up the mind-up process, because it's the truth that what is experienced and is so short, followed by many processes of mind-up process. But since it's not a visible object, it cannot be seen. right? So now what is seen is a moment of seeing consciousness, the process of seeing, experiencing the object with other moment which experience it but not see it. See? So this is the magician. And when one knows the trick, see, of the magician, one understands how and why it's such, as when the magician plays the trick. So the differences between appear well as it is has to be right understanding which can reach the truth of that which is hidden so very deeply now, the arising and falling away of what we are talking about. By then, the mind-out process covers up the other process. Like seeing just very short, see, hearing very short, and every sense-out process is short, much shorter. That's why one lives in the world of darkness, because that which appears at the moment of seeing is so very short, as it is. Right or wrong, at moment of hearing, visible object does not appear, but now it appears, so it does not appear well. That's why the sense-out process or the seeing idea process covers up the truth of mind-out process. Otherwise, one cannot understand how short each moment is or each reality is, like visible object or hardness or whatever.
I think there was a bit of discussion before about the use of words, and somebody was saying about it's not so important what words are used, but I tend to disagree, because I think if we don't, like you often say, one word at a time, and I find that really important, because we do mix everything up. We mix up mind door with sense door, we mix up intellectual understanding with direct understanding. So I do believe that one word at a time and understanding what it really means is a very important aspect of what I'm learning.
Otherwise, there cannot be moment of experiencing directly the truth, just learning about it, and it does not show up as it is, how fast it is, how little it is in a moment of appearing, like visible object now. When mind processes are in between, how short that which is seen is. And is it not true? See, the truth is the truth. And what can experience is only the developed panya enough to that degree, pop up unexpectedly. More confidence on anothernness, no one. This is the way to eliminate the idea of self, little by little, until it's completely, absolutely, ultimately gone forever. In a moment of Sotapatimaka, because Panya develops on and on and on before it can be such moment which is able to understand the truth that one has learned but not experienced yet, until Panya is developed enough. Understand what it's meant by pop-up. See, unexpectedly different world. No one, no thing. When we talk about no thing, no one, there are many things around, but we keep on saying no one and no thing. But the truth is that actually there must be as it is, but not known yet. Because even right now, there must be the person who is seen, see, not just that which is seen, only that which is seen, nothing it. Because for a moment of experiencing a visible object, see, we use that word, a visible object, which can be any color, which is seen. See, no idea about that at all. No idea about even what color it is. But the experiences just experiences that, not the other thing. So there can be the moment of understanding what's meant by experience directly, with direct understanding of that, deeper, subtle enough to reach the truth which is deeply down, covered up by ignorance. Now it's just that. And Panya begins to understand that when it is Panya of that degree, there is the moment of understanding what is heard before, exactly as it is, like no one. See, there must be no one. Otherwise, it does not appear as no one. But when only that, very short, very tiny, very little, it's there and gone. No doubt about what it's meant by different objects through different doorways and mind-door. That's why Vipassana must be mind-door process.
Ajahn, all Dhamma are, because as you say, unexpected, because it has to be arrived by condition.
Exactly, not just expectedly.
Yeah, because all are conditioned and Dhamma are uncontrollable. So how can Dhamma be expected? That's right. It cannot be expected.
Because there is the idea of self and I who expect that it's me, see, but it's not me.
But if understand that it's Dhamma, then understanding Dhamma cannot be expected.
No one, no thing. What is seen is not as long as it appears now. What is said.
Words, Ajahn, no one, no thing. I've often written that almost on every page of notes I take. Just no one, no self, nothing.
Right. Kind of relief, see? And so we can understand what we are talking about, like calmness, see? Or what is there. And Panya appears as it is, at what level is there. So true, so clear, as long as there is still what and what, and there is no what and what, or whether what degree, how less it is, become eliminated little by little, and absolutely eradicated the anusia. And when there is no anusia, there is no even asava, see, which used to arise all day unknown. The Tittasava, Vichasava, Pavasava, depending on the degrees of Panya, of what level of enlightenment.
Ajahn,
Sawadika, ทุกคนค่ะ.
Thank you, everyone.
Sorry
I appreciate very much what you say, Ajahn.